Despite all the economic hardship, 2021 may end up being a record year for the state's farmers and ranchers. So what's ahead in 2022 and beyond for Nebraska agriculture? Plus an update on hospitals coming down from the Omicron surge, and the state legislature debates how we should be financing our schools. It's all ahead tonight on Speaking of Nebraska. Thanks for joining us on Speaking of Nebraska. I'm Nebraska Public Media News Director Dennis Kellogg. Agriculture is one of the state's top industries. After some down years in the early 2010s, farm income has picked up each year in the state despite the 2019 flooding and a pandemic. Joining us now to talk about that is Nebraska's Agriculture Director, Steve Wellman. Director Wellman, thanks for being with us on Speaking of Nebraska.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, I want to ask you, net farm income was up to an estimated $8 billion last year. Those are just estimates, but it would be a record if it holds true. So regardless, that means for the most part, Nebraska producers are coming off a very good year. What do you think were the things that went right last year to result in that revenue increase?
Well, first of all, for just production in 2021, generally across the state, production was very, very good. Market prices for corn and soybeans, our two major crops that we produce here in Nebraska, were above normal. And, you know, there's always pockets of the state that have weather issues or either too dry or some type of a storm that went through and affected certain producers. And I can relate to that. I've been there before, right, as part of that. But as far as overall for 2021, if we look back for production, I mean, corn bushels per acre average was up 194 bushels per acre average in 2021, and soybeans production was 63 bushels an acre. So those are amazing yields, and then the pricing is good. And then of course we have other crops in Nebraska, sugar beets, edible beans, and wheat, and those crops, I think, and grain sorghum in general, their production numbers per acre maybe wasn't as high as 2020, but it was still a good year, either because of more acres produced or just because of the prices.
And we should note that you're a farmer rancher from Syracuse, Nebraska, so you're out there working the farm and dealing with the cattle on a day-to-day basis, so you do know these issues. Sure. And you've spent a lot of time with the American Soybean Association in a leadership role with them as well. So when you look at those numbers, is this a sign of a broader, stronger ag industry in Nebraska, or is it just one good year?
Well, agriculture is the heart and soul of Nebraska. About 20% of Nebraska's gross economic revenue comes from agriculture. 1 out of 4 jobs is supported by agriculture. So I think we're consistent. Agriculture is consistent in the state. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of diversity. We can't talk about agriculture in Nebraska without talking about livestock, specifically beef, pork, and the poultry industry has been growing here too. So I think it's a continuation of what's been built on for generations and generations. And man, technology always helps along the line. We have over 9 million acres of irrigated cropland in Nebraska now, so that helps us be consistently productive, but yet still be very conservation-minded of how we use our natural resources, and use them in a way that's very productive year after year.
So we're coming off a couple of years of a pandemic that has so negatively affected many businesses across the state of Nebraska. Why was it that agriculture, you think, was positioned to weather this storm maybe better than some other industries?
Well, I think so. We've had our impacts, so we've realized impacts from COVID and the flooding, and again, I think it's just the resiliency of the farmers and ranchers in Nebraska. It's the ability that we go out and produce, or they go out and produce year after year, and they go at it every day. And then, you know, the market challenges, the things that you talked about with COVID, that was definitely a marketing challenge from the packer perspective, and getting animals to slaughter and to the consumers. There was definitely some challenges there. So that impacted pricing for the producers. I think we're past most of that now, although we still do have some absenteeism in the meat packing industry, which is slowing the processing rate. But in general, prices for cattle have rebounded. They ended the year pretty strong, and pork prices exceeded the 2015 to 2019 four-year average. So again, I think we're poised well to produce every year. We saw a drought condition across the entire state basically when we started 2021. We ended the year with just about the same kind of a picture, so that's one thing we sure have to keep an eye on is the drought, the dry conditions. Because when we look at Nebraska agriculture, about 92% of our state is ag land utilized for agriculture, about 45 million acres total. Half of that is grassland, and the other half is cropland. And when we look at grassland, first thing that comes to my mind is the sand hills and the grass and the beef cows and the beef production from there. They need water too, right? And I think those areas are something that we're really cautious about on how much the drought will impact the grass production for those beef cows.
And I want to talk about something that you touched on in that answer, and that's something that we've reported on and dealt with on this program as well, and that's the months-long workforce and labor shortage and also the supply chain issues. How do you feel specifically agriculture has been impacted by those two problems?
Well, there's a lot of concern. I think, first of all, across the board, we've seen across the board inflation for agriculture, but just everybody in general, right? And then, getting parts, getting new machinery if a producer wants to go down that road, even just maintaining equipment and preparing them for next spring and being ready for planting or for this spring. There's a lot of logistics issues with having products on hand. Even tires are hard to find and get in a timely manner. So that's the supply chain is a problem for agriculture. The chips, the computer chips, there's a lot of technology in agriculture, and that is another piece of it too. So we're really cautious, and we can talk about fertilizer. The pricing of fertilizer now is, if for anhydrous ammonia, is 3 times higher than it was a year ago.
Absolutely.
And then we have other issues with other nitrogen products and phosphorus products.
Yeah, so let's talk about fertilizer, because in the ag industry, there's growing concern over those fertilizer prices. According to a Texas A&M study, prices could jump 80% for the next growing season. What do you see as the main reason behind that jump, and what is that really going to mean to the bottom line impact for Nebraska producers?
Well, I think there's multiple reasons why fertilizer prices have increased so much. Back to logistics, and that's one reason. Petroleum pricing is another reason. We had a speaker earlier, about a week ago, and they talked about, in general, across the world, fertilizer prices have increased. So it's not just the United States, it's around the world. And then we have some anti-dumping claims from fertilizer producers in the United States, and the Department of Commerce has ruled in their favor, and there's probably some tariffs and countervailing duties and some extra costs that will drive and continue to drive the price up for the producers. And basically, it's a hit to the bottom line for utilizing these products to stay productive, like we talked about earlier, and having that consistent production from year to year. Certainly, we use these products to be consistent, and it's if you add 200% to your cost inputs, it's going to be a problem on the income side.
Absolutely. We're talking with Steve Wellman, Nebraska's Director of Agriculture, on Speaking of Nebraska this evening. And I want to pivot a little bit to trade. A couple of months ago, we interviewed former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Mike Johanns. Johanns, who's a Republican, seemed very concerned about the outlook for trade under the Biden administration. Here's some of his comments.
The truth of the matter is that trade is a very difficult issue for President Biden. He gets all kinds of flack from unions and others, and saying, don't do this, don't do that with trade. So I'm not optimistic, to be honest with you, about this administration when it comes to trade. I'm not optimistic that we're going to see a list of trade agreements that have been negotiated or improved or changed or modified. I'm not very optimistic about the enforcement. I think you'll hear about it, but in the end, I'm not sure that it's going to be as aggressive as it needs to be.
So, Director Wellman, with what you've seen and experienced working with the Biden administration, do you think they're being aggressive enough on trade, especially when it comes to agriculture?
Well, I'm certainly not going to argue with former Senator and Governor and Secretary of Agriculture Johanns. I have a ton of respect for everything he's done, and his knowledge is is very high in agriculture in this topic. So I think in general, agriculture would like to see the Biden administration be more aggressive. I think Mr. Johanns had it correct there. And we've seen some dialogue from the Biden administration through Catherine Tai. But again, free trade agreements are something that agriculture generally supports. We have an interest in a free trade agreement with the United Kingdom now that they're separate from the EU. But there definitely are some agricultural-based issues that we want to be careful about when we approach the UK or anybody else as far as market access for Nebraska and U.S. ag products.
I know you were part of that delegation that met with the UK. What came out of those talks in particular, and how important is the UK to Nebraska?
Well, we have a long-standing relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom. Obviously, it goes back for a long time, and we've had good trading relationships. I mean, if we look at trade for agriculture from Nebraska in general, our top trading partner is China, Japan, Mexico, South Korea, and then Canada. And then the EU is either number 5 or number 6, and of course the UK was always part of the EU. So there's a lot of agricultural products that go into that area, and I think anytime we can get a free trade agreement to make sure we know the rules of trade, we have access for our agricultural products, and not have trade barriers in place. If we can get an FTA that avoids that, certainly it gives us the opportunity as producers and Nebraskans to sell our products there.
So another issue we deal with is involving meat packing, and the cattlemen's fight for maybe a more equitable share of the profits overall in the industry. So there's a new meat packing plant on the board or being planned in North Platte, one that would be owned by the cattlemen. And knowing how that shakes out and how the Big Four kind of control that industry, how much of an impact can a small independent plant like that make for Nebraska ranchers?
Well, I fully support sustainable beef and what they're working on there in North Platte. Of course, for those producers that are supplying cattle there, and if they have an ownership stake, there's risk to it, obviously, but there's also usually when there's more risk, there's more reward. And I think it's a great idea for that project, and we've supported it, and we sure wish them well and hope that they get that off the ground and going. Hey, Nebraska is the largest beef processing state in the United States already. But we have room for more. We have room for improvement. And if it provides opportunities for those producers to sell their product directly, and I think that's their intent, right, to sell directly to consumers or to an export market, we sure wish them the best.
We'll be watching that one for sure. Governor Ricketts proposed the construction of the Perkins County Canal in western Nebraska. It would bring water from Colorado via the South Platte River to Nebraska. Price tag around $500 million, some estimating that's low compared to what it's actually going to cost. And we all know how valuable water is to this state, but why do you think there's the emphasis on this project now, since it's been discussed for literally a century?
Well, there's probably better people to address this than myself, but Governor Ricketts obviously is one of them. Director Riley with the Natural Resources Agency would be another one. But my understanding is there's 283 projects proposed in Colorado, about $10 billion worth of projects to maintain the water in Colorado. So obviously, water means a lot to the state of Nebraska. It's a natural resource. If you think about water in Nebraska, the water that leaves Nebraska is 4 times greater than the amount of water that enters our state. We're a water-making machine, basically, through Nebraska. And we have 80,000 miles of streams and rivers. And, of course, we utilize some water resources for human consumption, recreation, and irrigation, and our livestock. So all of that adds up to, obviously, water is meaningful to sustaining life and to agricultural production.
I want to ask you also about the Farm Bill. It's set to expire next year. This week, the House Ag Subcommittee has already started holding hearings on what that next Farm Bill is going to look like. From a state perspective, what do you think are the most important issues that should be in that next Farm Bill?
Well, crop insurance is basically the mainstay of what producers need in Nebraska. And the Farm Bill deals a little bit with crop insurance, but it deals more with other safety nets and other programs and conservation programs, for example, trade, funding for trade, foreign market development and market access programs. So there's a lot that's in the Farm Bill. Of course, 75 to 80% of what's in the Farm Bill is nutrition, and that's more focused on providing affordable food to the consumers. But I think from a farmer perspective, a crop farmer in particular, crop insurance and knowing that there's a stable crop insurance program that we can buy the product for and have that sense of support, it helps the producer and it helps the lenders know that there's a baseline for revenue.
Just have a couple of minutes left, so I want to spend that time asking you to maybe look ahead a little bit. What are some of the challenges that you envision for the upcoming year?
Well, I think we've touched on them briefly. Drought and the drought conditions across the state. How severe does it get? Do we get some rainfall or snowfall here yet this winter? But then rainfall next spring throughout the whole growing season, and addressing the dry conditions in our rangelands and grasslands. So, drought, Mother Nature, how we get treated that way, that's always very important. Another reason why crop insurance is important, to give us some background or safety net on that. And just how the logistics and supply chain really works out for us. Does it get worse? I mean, we're at a point now we're having difficulties getting supplies. On the crop protection side, there's products that we know we won't have available already in 2022 for crop protection products. And the ones that are there, what kind of price will they have when we need to purchase them? And then labor issues throughout agriculture and throughout the state is always, it's at the top of the issues and concerns for how do we get the work done, how do we do it efficiently, and how do we stay productive throughout the year.
Just have a few seconds left, but those are the difficulties. Are you optimistic about the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, my personality is I'm optimistic for agriculture. It's every year is something new. We just talked about it earlier today in the office. New birth, calving season, livestock. The wheat will green up this spring, and yeah, it's a new year again, and let's go get it for Nebraska agriculture.
Steve Wellman is the director of Nebraska's Department of Agriculture. Thank you for being with us on Speaking of Nebraska.
Sure, thank you.
All right. This interview and tonight's program are available on our website. You can go to nebraskapublicmedia.org/Speaking of Nebraska and join the conversation on social media. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Nebraska Public Media News. We appear to have turned a corner with the pandemic. Here to discuss the latest COVID details is Dr. Lance Schupbach, a hospitalist at Bryan Health. Dr. Schupbach, thanks for being here with us on Speaking of Nebraska.
You're welcome, Dennis. Always a pleasure.
Well, according to the CDC, the 7-day average for COVID-19 cases is down nearly 60% since mid-January. It appears we're past the worst of Omicron. But, Doctor, I want to ask you, are we out of the worst of the pandemic, do you think?
There's bad news and good news. I'm pleased the numbers are going down, and we have much more powerful tools to control the pandemic. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are highly protective. Our older patients older than 70 have lower hospitalization and death rates than they did before. And that's because they are the group that has the most vaccination penetration. So we also have medications that can be given to people that have compromised immune systems, and can be given to the very small number of people, like less than 1%, who have risks of getting vaccinated. So those are all good things. We also have a great team of administrators, nurses and doctors and therapists, and a lot of other people working hard to control the numbers. The bad news, I think, is that although numbers are going down, it would be terrible to be falsely complacent about that. Denmark has a variant of Omicron that's much more dangerous than the one we're seeing, and it's going to come here. So people I know are very fatigued of hearing the bad news. I sure am. I'm tired of wearing masks. I'm tired of having to give away some of my freedoms. But what we have to realize is until we all come together and do even better at suppressing the spread of the virus, it's going to keep mutating, and it's going to keep not only hurting and killing our neighbors, but it's congesting our hospital right now. Yesterday, I was taking the calls from out of Lincoln from 16 doctors who had patients that could not come into our hospital. And not all of those had COVID, but the extra 70 patients we have with COVID in our Bryan Hospital Medical Center right now are taking up all the extra room. So the true measure of when we can breathe easier will be when we have extra hospital beds that we can take the out-of-town patients like we used to. For the other 13 years I've been here, we've rarely had that situation where we can't find beds for people. So I'll breathe a lot easier when we band together and we suppress the virus so that we have room to bring those people in from out of town.
Doctor, I want to ask you too, some national health officials seem to be a little disappointed in the level of vaccinations for children, those ages 5 to 11. They thought those numbers might be a little bit higher, but what are you seeing when it comes specifically to kids getting this particular virus and being treated in the hospital?
I'm an adult doctor, but several of my colleagues are pediatricians. And I've talked quite a bit just because of the big public health implications of all this. And I know we have several children that are admitted at Bryan right now. As far as I know, none that are ICU level or that need to be sent to Omaha. We do hope that most people will choose to vaccinate their kids. My 3 school-age children are all vaccinated. They are in the 11 to 16-year-old age group, and I know the most recent request has been for kids younger than 5 to be able to be vaccinated. Dennis, the numbers are that there's about a 1 in 100,000 chance of a severe reaction to the vaccine. A kid's chance of getting hurt by COVID is much higher than that, more like 1 in 500 of having a serious problem with COVID. So the numbers are very clear that it's safer to vaccinate your kid than to let your kid get COVID. And so we hope people will take that to heart. We'll sit down and talk with a trusted medical provider and will choose to get their kid vaccinated.
And doctor, just 30 seconds or so left, so just a quick answer, but we've heard about the toll this is taking, the pandemic, on healthcare workers. What are you seeing at Bryan with your colleagues?
I'm seeing good morale and a lot of support for one another. Bryan's a special place, and I'm privileged to work here. And I have had contact with friends from across the country that I did training with. There is compassion fatigue. There's a lot of difficulty coming into work every day. Some longtime Bryan employees have gone to travel nursing for the money, or and I do know of people that have left the profession.
Yeah.
By and large, though, we're hanging in there, and we have a great team that is keeping its morale up, but it's increasingly difficult.
That's good to hear. Dr. Lance Schupbach, hospitalist at Bryan Health, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome anytime, Dennis, and I just hope people will listen to trusted sources of information like yours and band together and help us fight this common enemy, the virus.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. And for the latest pandemic news, visit our website, nebraskapublicmedia.org/coronavirus. The Nebraska legislature has been debating how we finance schools in our state. Fred Knapp covers the legislature for Nebraska Public Media News and joined us now. Fred, bring us up to speed on that debate.
Well, there's a long debate going on. It's a filibuster, actually, on a bill that targets property tax increases. Schools are the single largest users of property tax, and Senator Breezy wants to limit their property tax increases per year to either 2.5% or inflation, whichever is higher. So this has drawn a lot of pushback from people who say that it would cut schools' ability to finance their needs. Breezy points out that property taxes have increased a lot faster than inflation over the last decade, and says this is a necessary measure to put in place before the state considers any increase in aid to schools to try to hold down property taxes, because otherwise that could all just disappear and be eaten up with spending increases.
So with the filibuster, we may get to a vote on this next week on the Breezy proposal?
It's expected to be voted on Tuesday, but that won't be the end of the issue. One of the next bills coming up is Senator Lynn Wall's proposal for a big increase in state school aid, about a 70% increase. So that would flip the proportions of how much school funding comes from the state, which at this time is less than comes from property tax. This would reverse that, but it would do so by tapping into the property tax credit fund, which was put in place last year, which this year will give people 25% of what they spend for property taxes for schools back as an income tax credit. So some people want to preserve that. Some people want to rework the whole system and turn that into school aid with the idea that that would hold down property taxes.
So a lot of focus on school finance, but also we're in the process of senators picking their priority bills, those bills that they really want to make sure they get to this session. How's that going?
Well, so far about 13 of the 49 senators have named their priority bills, and they range from subjects range from everything from a ban on abortion that would take effect if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. That was introduced by Senator Albright, and it's been prioritized by Senator Hilgers, who's the Speaker of the legislature. There's Senator Brewer, who wants to do away with the requirement that you have a permit if you want to carry a concealed gun. There's a proposal just advanced to reduce both corporate and individual income taxes. There's the so-called Star Wars committee that wants to build a big lake between Lincoln and Omaha and have marinas at Lewis and Clark in northern Nebraska and at Lake McConaughey. And there are still big decisions to be made on how to spend $1 billion worth of federal funds, ARPA funds, whether or not to build a new prison, there's a proposal that's advancing to eliminate taxes on Social Security, but all these things have to be fit within a balanced budget. So that process has still got a long ways to go.
And just in the minute or so we have left, one of the marquee issues is criminal justice reform and potentially building that new prison. Any updates on that? Where does that sit right now?
Well, the proposal to build a new prison is undergoing a hearing. But the proposal to try to reduce the people coming into the prison system by reforming sentences still sits in committee, and there's dispute over how far that measure should go.
And we're in a shorter session. Are we going to get all this done?
I don't think that they're going to get to everybody's priority bills this year, but we'll see.
That'll be interesting. Fred Knapp covers the legislature for us. Thank you very much for your report tonight, and thanks for all the work that he does. And you can hear him every weekday on the radio at 5:45 and 7:45 weekday mornings and 5:45 in the evening on Nebraska Public Media. And you can read his stories each day on our website at nebraskapublicmedia.org/news. That's all for this week on Speaking of Nebraska. Thanks to Steve Wellman and Dr. Lance Schupbach for joining us, and to Fred Knapp for his reporting. Next week, join us for a discussion about the 50th anniversary of Title IX, the landmark legislation that outlawed discrimination on the basis of sex. Until then, I'm Dennis Kellogg. Thanks for spending some time with us. We'll see you next week.